Hello lovelies, good day and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, you're welcome, and to all my returning subscribers, you're also welcome. Thank you guys for always stopping by my video. My name is Oluwatosin. In case you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe. In today's video, we are going to be learning how to make this ever trendy and ever gorgeous BUBU with MIKADO and sequence, just as you are seeing in the video, with two inner pockets and a very neat sewing. The one I made is the one on the left, and if this sounds like what you're interested in, let's just jump right into it without talking too much. So firstly, we will be needing 3.5 yards of MIKADO and 1 yard of the sequence. After then, you proceed to measuring the full length. Our full length is 57. I added 3 inches allowance because I want to fold it down very big. And the way I folded it, there's not going to be joining on the shoulder. After then, the next thing to measure is the shoulder. In this case, I measured our shoulder from the middle, from the center of our neck to the sleeve length, and hers is 20, but our actual shoulder is 16. So I'm going to be marking 20, and then I'm going to be marking 16, which is on fold of 2 now. I'm going to be marking 8 as well. The next thing to mark is the hip line. From the shoulder line, I'm going to be using 26 as the hip line because our half length is 16, so I'm just adding 10 inches, so 26 for the hip line. The next thing to do is to mark out a neckline. I used 6 as the neck width and 2 inches as the neck depth for the back. I'm still going to draw the neck depth for the front. So the neck depth from the front now is going to be 9 inches because it's completely different from the one at the back. Then from that 9, I'm going to measure 1 inch inward just like I'm doing, and then I'll connect that to the neckline. The next thing is I'm supposed to slant the shoulder, but because I said that this BUBU is not going to have joining on the shoulder, I'm not going to be slanting the shoulder. So I'm not going to slant the shoulder at all. So from the top, I'm going to measure 12. 12 is like the armhole, or will I say the round sleeve. That's how wide the tip of the mouth is going to be. Then the next I will do is to mark a hip divided by 4. Then I'm adding 5-inch allowance for ease because we are sewing a BUBU, we need enough allowance, and it's not supposed to be fitted in any way. So I'm going to measure what I have on that hip line with the sewing allowance and measure it on the part where the sleeve length stops, and then I'm going to connect it together and proceed to cutting it out. But because the armhole is not supposed to be that pointy, I'm just going to curve it a little bit, and then I'm going to retrim it just like I did. Then for a start, or at first, I'm going to be cutting the front and back neckline together. Then I'll open it up like so and proceed to cutting out the front neckline. It is that simple. I hope I'm making sense. So after cutting out the front neckline, basically we are done for the body. The next thing to do is to start cutting our sequence. But I'm going to put a mark at that point so that I can know the part that falls directly on the shoulder, because once I open it up, I don't know except I notch it. I don't want to notch that part, so I'm just going to mark it. The next is to measure the neckline round from that point to the other point. I'm not going to measure the straight part, no. Then whatever the measurement is, I'm going to add 2 inches allowance because I need 1 inch on both sides to extend the collar inward so that everywhere can be neat. After that, I'm going to draw a straight line just like I drew so that I can get the middle of the neckline. Then from there, I'm going to measure the shoulder, which is 8. Then I'm going to connect that to the neckline. Then the next is to measure the half length depending on how low you want the sequence to be on the MIKADO. I want hers to be like 1 inch below the half length, so I'm going to be measuring 17 because her half length is 16. You can just play around depending on the design you're trying to achieve, but working with this particular design I'm trying to achieve, I figured out the half length and I added 1 inch to the length. I'm going to put the picture up so that you guys can understand what I'm marking as I'm marking. So I'm just trying to mark out where I want the sequence to be on the MIKADO, and this marking depends on the style you are trying to achieve. So the next now is to get the pointy side of the sequence. And to do that, I located the middle on the half length, the middle of that line on the half length. When I was done, I measured 2 inch upward on both sides. When I was done, I joined the point to the middle so that it gets pointy. Then after then I'll proceed to clean off the initial straight line that I drew, because that straight line is just like a guide for me to get the exact middle. And according to the style, one side is a little bit longer, like wider than the other side. That's why it's appearing like that. So after that, the next is to cut out the sequence. Like I said, you can place this on your pattern paper to trace out first and then transfer your pattern paper to your sequence. But I'm not going to be doing that. I'm just going to place my sequence on it and then I start marking carefully. You have to be as careful as possible to achieve this. And whatever you mark, just add ½ inch or 1 inch allowance. That is the allowance that you are going to use to fold it inward. I hope you guys get what I'm saying. And you can just pin the sequence down on the MIKADO somewhere so that it doesn't start moving around as you're marking. And after marking, proceed to cutting it out. So after cutting it out, this is what I have. This method for me, anytime I'm sewing this BUBU, is always so fast. But you can place your MIKADO on your pattern paper and then you trace out your marking and you place it on the sequence before cutting out. But for me, this method is the fastest. So the next thing to do is to cut that part out, because that is how it is in the style. Then after cutting it out, I'm just trying to show you guys how to sew it down. The other side is going to enter the neckline before I use this one to like sew it in opposite direction, and then I turn it down and then I'll fold the edges inward as well. So after this, the next thing to do is to cut the sequence that is on the tip of the sleeve. And to do that, I'm just going to measure the sleeve and then I'm going to cut whatever length I measured by 2 inches wide. When I was done cutting out on my sequence, I proceeded to adding interfacing. I used medium thick gum stay. So this is the one for the round sleeve. I cut 2 of that. Then the other one is the one for the neckline. It is 5 inches wide, and I measured the length before cutting it out. So that's the small piece for the neck, and this is the wider piece for the chest. So after cutting now, the next thing is to start sewing. So to start sewing, I'm going to sew this small piece in this opposite direction, the way I faced it. Don't forget that we marked the shoulder line. So I'm just going to pin it down, then I'll sew it and face it down. After sewing, I'm going to fold the other side inward with like ½ inch allowance, and then the side on the neckline is going to like stay on the neckline. I'll use the collar to like match it down. I hope you guys get what I'm saying. I'm going to match that part down with the collar, then this other side I'll fold it inward with like ½ inch. That is why when I'm sewing it on the opposite direction, I'll leave like ½ inch allowance that I'm not going to sew. I hope you guys get what I'm saying. So moving to my machine now, I'm done attaching this small piece to it. The next is to attach the one on the round sleeve on the sleeve. So I'll sew the right side of the sequence to the wrong side of the fabric, and then I'll flip it over and match it. You can use iron to do this before coming back to sew it. So when I was done folding it with pressing iron, I matched it down. Now for the neckline, I sewed the collar around the neckline, and basically that's it. So when I was done attaching the collar, you see that I didn't sew that small parts. If there is excess, just trim it out, because it's not supposed to be too long. Then you are going to like put one on the other, just the way I'm doing. After that, you can just pin it down, or you can just stitch it down a little. Then you proceed to using the one on the chest to cover it up. I hope you guys get what I'm saying. So this is the one for the chest. Now you're going to sew it in opposite direction, flip it up to sew, so that it can conceal all the rough edges. And when you are sewing, you are going to leave like half or 1 inch allowance. That's the one you are going to use to fold it inside, because it's supposed to be on the same line with the one coming from the shoulder. So after that, you are going to flip it down and you will match it. You fold it inside with like ½ inch and match it. When I was done doing this, I proceeded to cut in the pocket. It measures 13 inches long and 13 inches wide. I fixed it on 2 inches after the half length, which is 18, because the half length is 16. Then I folded it down on the sides with hemming gum. And when I was done, this is the dress. It is that simple, guys. Thank you so much for sticking with me from the beginning of this video to this point. If you have any question, do not hesitate to ask me in the comment section. And please don't forget to give my video a thumbs up if you've not subscribed. Kindly do. If you can, please share my video amongst your soulmates. Thank you so much for the like, love, and comment on all my previous videos. I greatly appreciate it and I don't take it for granted. So I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.